The massive space station Concordia Prime hung in the darkness like a silver city among the stars. Inside its great halls, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered for what many believed would be the most important meeting in galactic history. The air hummed with tension as creatures of all shapes and sizes took their seats in the curved chamber. Ambassador Krell of the Zephyrian Empire adjusted his blue-scaled neck as he reviewed his notes one final time. His people had ruled star systems for over 2,000 years, and they had never faced a problem quite like this one. Across the chamber, the insect-like Keth collective delegates clicked their mandibles in nervous rhythm. Even the ancient ethereals, beings of pure energy who rarely showed emotion, seemed restless in their containment suits. At the center of it all sat Council Leader Vexthara, an ethereal whose species had guided galactic peace for 3 millennia. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the weight of ages. "We are here today to address what our intelligence reports call the human problem." The words echoed through the chamber. Every being present knew why they were here, but hearing it said aloud made it real. Humanity had become too big to ignore, too dangerous to leave unchecked, and too stubborn to control through normal diplomatic channels. Ambassador Krell stood first, his tall frame commanding attention. "Honored Council, the evidence is clear. In the past 50 years, humans have established colonies in 17 disputed systems. They ignore our territorial agreements. They build where they please and take what they want." His voice grew louder with each word. "They show no respect for the laws that have kept peace in our galaxy for centuries." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. The Draconian representative, a massive reptilian creature with scarred hide, spoke next. "My people have tried to reason with them. We offered them proper trading rights, legitimate colony permits, even seats on our regional councils. They take our offers, say thank you very much, and then do exactly what they were doing before." The Keth collective speaker, a being that looked like a cross between a spider and a lobster, added her voice to the complaints. "Human traders bypass our established routes entirely. They appear in systems we have never seen before, carrying goods from worlds we did not know existed. When we ask how they found these places, they just smile and say they were exploring." More voices joined in, each species adding their own grievances to the growing list. The humans were too unpredictable, too independent, too willing to ignore the careful balance that kept the galaxy stable. They solved problems in ways that made no sense to established thinking. When faced with a difficult situation, instead of following proper procedures, they simply found another way around it. Council Leader Vexthara raised one glowing hand, and the chamber fell silent. "The reports are troubling, but we must be precise. In our language, are we saying that humanity has committed acts of war against our member species?" "No," Krell admitted reluctantly. "They have not attacked our ships or invaded our worlds. But they expand without permission. They trade without licenses. They explore without proper authorization. Have they broken any specific galactic treaties?" The chamber grew uncomfortable. The truth was that most galactic laws had been written long before humans ever left their homeworld. The regulations assumed that all species would follow certain patterns, seek certain approvals, respect certain boundaries. Humans seemed unaware that these patterns existed. "They have violated the spirit of our agreements," said the Centauri Federation's representative, a being that looked like a walking tree. "They show no respect for proper order." An ancient ethereal named Morden, whose species had witnessed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations, spoke in a voice like distant thunder. "Perhaps the issue is not what humans have done, but what they might do. Intelligence reports suggest their population has tripled in the past century. Their technology advances at an alarming rate. If current trends continue, they will outnumber any 3 of our member species combined within 200 years. The chamber erupted in worried chatter. Population growth was something most galactic species had long ago brought under careful control. The idea of a species that simply kept growing, kept expanding, kept building more and more, was deeply unsettling to civilizations that valued stability above all else. Vexthara's voice cut through the noise. The human delegation has requested permission to address these concerns. I call Ambassador Sarah Chun of the Seoul Federation. A section of the chamber wall slid open and 12 humans walked in. They were smaller than most of the other species present, but they moved with a confidence that made them seem larger than they were. Ambassador Chun, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and calm eyes, led the group to the designated speaking area. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of creatures who had been debating her species' fate for hours. When she spoke, her voice was steady and clear. Honored Council, we have listened to your concerns. We understand that our methods may seem unusual to established galactic society. Unusual? Krell's voice rose to a near shout. You ignore our laws. You expand without permission. You treat the galaxy like your personal playground. Chun nodded slowly. We explore because we are curious. We build where we find opportunity. We trade because we have things others need and they have things we want. These seem like normal activities to us. Normal? The Keth Collective speaker's mandibles clicked rapidly. You have claimed systems in the neutral zone? You have established mining operations in areas marked as dangerous. You send your people to worlds that should be uninhabitable. We go where others choose not to go, Chun replied simply. We make uninhabitable worlds habitable. We find opportunity where others see only problems. Vexthara leaned forward in her containment suit. Ambassador Chun, the Council has prepared a formal ultimatum. Humanity must immediately cease all expansion beyond your designated home systems. You must submit to Galactic Council oversight. For all future colonial activities, you must pay reparations for your unauthorized use of disputed systems. And you must accept Council monitors in your government to ensure future compliance with galactic law. The human delegation listened in complete silence. Chun's expression never changed, but something in her eyes grew cold. When Vexthara finished reading the long list of demands, the chamber fell quiet, waiting for humanity's response. Chun stood slowly. She looked around the chamber one more time, studying the faces of beings who had just demanded that her species surrender their independence. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but carried clearly to every corner of the vast room. We will need to discuss this with our people. She turned and walked toward the exit. The other 11 humans followed without a word. No arguments, no counter-proposals, no angry speeches. They simply left. The chamber door slid shut behind them, leaving the assembled galactic powers staring at empty space. In 3,000 years of Council history, no species had ever simply walked away from negotiations. Krell broke the silence first. What just happened? Vexthara's glowing form seemed dimmer than before. I believe, she said slowly, that we may have just made a very serious mistake. The council chamber began to buzz with confused conversation, but deep in the minds of the older, wiser delegates, a troubling thought was beginning to form. In all their planning, all their debate about the human problem, they had made one critical assumption. They had assumed that humans wanted to be part of galactic society. What if they were wrong? What if humans had never needed their permission for anything? And what if humanity was about to show them exactly what that meant? 6 months had passed since the human delegation walked out of Concordia Prime. The galaxy waited, but humanity remained silent. Ambassador Thekmar of the Centauri Federation paced his office aboard the trading station New Harmony. Through the large windows, he could see the busy traffic of merchant ships coming and going. But something was wrong with the picture. Something was missing. Computer, show me shipping records for the past 6 months, he said to the air. Numbers and charts appeared on his wall display. Thekmar studied them with growing unease. Zephyrian cargo ships, Keth collective transport vessels, draconian freighters, even small independent traders from a dozen minor species, but no human ships. Not a single one. His assistant, a young Centauri named Vikalan, entered the office carrying a datapad. Sir, you asked me to compile reports on human activity across the Federation border zones. What did you find? Vikalin's bark-like skin showed the pale coloring that meant confusion in their species. That's just it, sir. I found nothing. Number. Human ships in our space. No human traders at our markets. No human tourists visiting our worlds. It's like they just disappeared. Vekmar turned back to the window. The Centauri Federation shared the longest border with human space of any galactic power. For decades, that border had been busy with trade, cultural exchange, and the occasional diplomatic incident. Human merchants were known throughout Centauri space for their strange goods and stranger ideas. Human tourists visited Centauri garden worlds to study their famous crystal forests. Human students attended Centauri universities to learn about their ancient philosophy. All of that had stopped the day after the ultimatum was delivered. Have we tried to contact them? Vekmar asked. Yes, sir. Standard diplomatic channels show automated responses only. The messages say that human space is temporarily closed to outside visitors for internal reorganization. All existing agreements and contracts will be honored, but no new arrangements can be made at this time. And our trade agreements? Cancelled. All of them. The humans sent formal notices that they would not be renewing any contracts when the current ones expire. They paid all outstanding debts and requested that we remove any permanent trading posts from their territory. Vekmar felt a chill run through his body. The humans had not just left the galactic community. They had severed all ties, cut all connections, and pulled back into their own space like a creature retreating into its shell, 3 star systems away. Captain Yilshin of the Keth Collective faced a similar problem. Her patrol ship, the Sharp Edge, hung motionless near the border of what used to be called the Human Keth Neutral Zone for 40 years. This region had been a bustling area where both species mined asteroids, built research stations, and conducted joint operations. Now it was empty. Captain, her navigation officer clicked in rapid Keth speech, the humans have withdrawn from all shared installations. They left everything clean and undamaged, but they took all their people and equipment. Yelshin studied the sensor readings from her command chair. The massive mining platform that humans and Keth had operated together for 2 decades was still there, still functional. But only the Keth sections showed any activity. The human portions were dark, powered down, abandoned. Any sign of human ships in the area? Negative, Captain, but the officer hesitated. We are detecting some unusual energy signatures from deeper in human space. The readings don't match any known human technology. Show me. The main display lit up with a 3-dimensional map of local space. Keth territory showed in blue, human space in green, and the neutral zone in white. But scattered throughout human space were dozens of red dots indicating unknown energy sources. When did these first appear? About 4 months ago, Captain. They seem to be construction projects of some kind, but our long-range sensors cannot get detailed readings. Yoshin leaned back in her chair. In Keth culture, when someone stopped talking to you, it usually meant they were either very angry or planning something dangerous. Sometimes both. On the diplomatic station Harmony's Edge, Council Leader Vexthara met with her top advisors. The station served as a neutral meeting ground between different galactic powers, and it had always been busy with human visitors, researchers, studying galactic law, trade representatives negotiating deals, tourists exploring different cultures. Now the human quarters sat empty. Report, Vexthara said to her intelligence chief, an ethereal named Zarthak. The humans have ceased all contact with council member species. They honor existing agreements but make no new ones. Human civilians who were living or working in our territories have quietly returned home. Those we have spoken to claim they are not authorized to discuss political matters. Authorized by whom, they will not say. When pressed, they simply apologize and excuse themselves from the conversation. Vexthara's energy form flickered with concern. What about our scout ships? Have we learned anything from observing human space? That is problematic. Our scouts approach human systems and are met by automated defense platforms. The platforms do not threaten or attack. They simply broadcast a message saying that human space is closed to visitors and requests that all ships turn back. Do they comply? Our captains report that something about the platforms makes them very uncomfortable. They are clearly defensive in nature, but they appear far more advanced than anything humans had 6 months ago. Most of our scouts have chosen to respect the request rather than test the platform's capabilities. Dr. Morinel, the Council's chief xenopsychologist, had been quiet throughout the briefing. She was a Sylvani, a species known for their deep understanding of other cultures and their ability to predict behavior patterns. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical quality typical of her people. I have been studying human psychology and history since the ultimatum was delivered, she said. I believe we have made a fundamental error in our understanding of human nature, explained, Vexthara said. Most species, when faced with a threat or challenge from a superior force, respond in predictable ways. They submit, they negotiate, they fight, or they flee. Humans appear to have chosen a fifth option, which is, they have gone to work. The room fell silent. Zarthek's form brightened with confusion. Work? What do you mean? Dr. Murinel activated a holographic display showing human historical records. When humans feel cornered or threatened, they do not waste time on emotional responses. They assess the situation, identify their problems, and begin solving them. They are not ignoring us out of anger or spite. They are ignoring us because they are busy. Busy doing what? That is what worries me. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When they cannot achieve their goals through existing methods, they create new methods. When they cannot work within existing systems, they build new systems. Vexthara's energy form pulsed slowly as she considered this. You believe they are preparing for war? I believe they are preparing for independence. Complete independence. The question is not whether they can survive without galactic society. The question is whether galactic society can survive without them. On the merchant vessel Star Dancer, Captain Jorvik the Draconian hauled cargo through the Outer Rim territories. His ship was old but reliable, and he knew the trade routes better than most. He had been flying the same circuits for 30 years, carrying goods between the civilized core worlds and the rough frontier settlements, but lately, something strange was happening in the deep space regions that most ships avoided. Areas marked on star charts as uninhabitable, dangerous, or simply empty were showing signs of activity. Jorvak's sensors picked up energy readings from a system that was supposed to be dead. According to official records, the 3 planets orbiting the dim red star were airless rocks with no valuable resources. No one had bothered to visit the system in over a century, but something was definitely there now. Computer, scan for ship signatures, Jorvik rumbled in his deep voice. Multiple contacts detected, configuration unknown. Energy signatures consistent with construction activity. Construction activity in a dead system? Jorvak's curiosity overcame his caution. He changed course and moved closer, keeping his ship's stealth systems active. What he saw when he reached the edge of the system made his blood run cold. The 3 dead planets were covered with lights. Massive installations sprawled across their surfaces, connected by transportation networks that glowed like circuits in the darkness. Ships moved between the planets in steady streams, carrying materials and equipment. But these were not the sleek vessels of the major galactic powers. These were human ships. Hundreds of them. Jorvik quickly activated his long-range communications and sent an encrypted message to his contacts in Draconian intelligence. His hands shook as he typed. Found something you need to see. Sending coordinates. Humans are building. In the dead zones, big construction. This is not a colony. This is infrastructure. Send ships. Send lots of ships. He attached his sensor readings and hit the transmit button. Then he powered up his engines and got out of there as fast as his old ship could carry him. Behind him, the lights of human construction continued to glow in the darkness, turning dead worlds into something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The silence was about to be broken, and when it was, nothing would ever be the same. Captain Jorvak's ship Star Dancer limped into Concordia. Prime 3 days after his discovery in the dead zones, the old Draconian had pushed his engines harder than they were meant to go, and smoke still leaked from several hull plates. But the data he carried was worth more than his ship. The emergency council session convened within hours of his arrival. Representatives who had grown comfortable with humanity's silence now faced a disturbing new reality. Jorvik stood at the center of the great chamber, his scarred hide showing the stress marks that appeared when Draconians were deeply worried. "Honored Council," Jorvik began, his voice carrying the rough accent of a freighter captain who had spent more time in space than on any planet. "What I found out there changes everything we think we know about humans." Council leader Vexthara's energy form pulsed with impatience. "Captain, your message spoke of construction in the dead zones. Please be specific." Jorvik activated his portable display unit. The chamber's main screen lit up with sensor readings, energy signatures, and long-range visual data. System designation Kepler 442, officially listed as uninhabitable. 3 dead planets orbiting a dying red star. No atmosphere, no water, no resources worth mining. The display showed images that made the assembled delegates lean forward in their seats. The 3 planets glowed with artificial light. Massive dome structures covered large portions of their surfaces. Transportation networks linked cities that should not exist. Ships moved in steady streams between orbital stations and planetary installations. "This is impossible," whispered Ambassador Krell of the Zephyrian Empire. "Our surveys showed those worlds were barren rock." "Your surveys were right," Jorvik said, 6 months ago. "But look at this." The display shifted to show atmospheric readings. "They're terraforming. Somehow, the humans are creating breathable atmospheres on dead worlds, not just one world. All 3 planets in that system are being transformed." The Keth Collective's representative clicked her mandibles rapidly. "Terraforming takes centuries. Even with the most advanced technology, changing a planet's atmosphere requires massive time and resources." "Tell that to the humans," Jorvik replied grimly. "Because they've done it in 6 months." Dr. Morinell, the Sovani xenopsychologist, stood from her seat. "Captain, you said this was not the only system showing activity?" Jorvik's expression grew darker. "That's the real problem. On my way here, I detected similar energy signatures in 17 other systems, all of them listed as dead, dangerous, or uninhabitable, all of them showing major construction activity." The chamber erupted in worried conversation. 17 systems in 6 months. The mathematics were staggering. Ambassador Thekmar of the Centauri Federation raised his voice above the noise. "Captain, did you encounter any human ships during your observations?" "More than I could count." "But here's the strange thing. They weren't military vessels. They were construction ships, cargo haulers, transport vessels. The humans weren't building weapons. They were building cities." Vexthara called for order, and the chamber gradually quieted. "Captain Jorvik, in your professional opinion, how long have these construction projects been active?" Jorvik scratched his chin, a gesture that indicated deep thought among his species. "Based on the scale of what I saw, years, maybe decades. The humans didn't start this when they walked out of here 6 months ago. They just stopped hiding it." The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. While the galactic powers had been debating humanity's expansion into a few dozen systems, humans had been quietly building in hundreds of systems that no one else wanted. Intelligence Chief Zarthek's energy form flickered rapidly. "We need confirmation." "I propose we send scout fleets to investigate these claims." "Already tried," Jorvik said. "On my way here, I passed a Zephyrian scout ship heading toward the Kepler systems. 2 days later, I picked up their distress beacon." Krell shot to his feet. "What happened to our ship?" "Nothing violent. The crew was fine. But they sent a message saying they had encountered something that made them reconsider their mission. They were returning to base for new orders." "What? Could make a Zephyrian scout crew turn back?" Jorvik shrugged, a gesture that made his massive frame seem oddly vulnerable. "I don't know. But when I talked to their captain on the emergency channel, he sounded scared, real scared. He kept saying the same thing over and over. Which was, "There's too many of them. There's just too many of them." Dr. Morinel activated her own display, showing population projections and resource calculations. Council members, I have been analyzing the data Captain Jorvik provided. If humans are indeed operating in 17 systems simultaneously, conducting terraforming operations on this scale, we must recalculate our estimates of their true capabilities. What do you mean? Vextara asked. Terraforming dead worlds requires massive population resources, advanced technology, and industrial capacity far beyond what we believed humans possessed. Either they have been developing in secret for much longer than we realized, or their rate of advancement is far greater than any species in galactic history. The ancient ethereal Morden, who had remained silent throughout the session, finally spoke. His voice carried the weight of 3 millennia of experience. Dr. Morinel, what are your revised estimates of human population and technological capability? The Savani hesitated, checking her calculations once more. Based on the scale of construction Captain Jorvik observed and assuming standard efficiency ratios for terraforming operations, the human population must be at least 10 times larger than our previous estimates. The chamber fell deadly silent. That would make them the largest single population in the galaxy, Morden continued. Yes, and their technological capability? Unknown. To accomplish what we've observed, they would need to have made breakthroughs in atmospheric engineering, resource extraction, and construction techniques that we didn't know were possible. Ambassador Yeltara of the Minor Nexu Coalition, whose species rarely spoke in council sessions, raised a trembling hand. Dr. Morinel, if your calculations are correct, what does this mean for the ultimatum we delivered? Dr. Morinel's musical voice took on a somber tone. It means we have been fundamentally mistaken about our position. We demanded that humanity submit to our authority and accept our oversight. But if they possess the population and technology to terraform dead worlds in months rather than centuries, they never needed our permission for anything. The truth settled over the chamber like a cold fog. For months, they had waited for humanity's response to their ultimatum, assuming that the silence meant humans were considering submission. Instead, humans had simply continued doing what they had always been doing. On a scale that dwarfed anything the galactic powers had imagined, Captain Jorvik cleared his throat, drawing attention back to himself. There's one more thing you need to know. When I was leaving the Kepler systems, I detected a transmission. It was in human language, so my ship's computer couldn't translate much. But I recognized some of the words. What did you hear? It was a construction report. Someone giving an update on their progress. They mentioned completion dates for atmospheric processors, population transfer schedules, and resource allocation for new settlements. Jorvik paused, his expression grim. They also mentioned sector designations. Based on the numbers I heard, they're not just working in 17 systems? Vexthara form grew brighter with alarm. How many systems are they working in, Captain? I stopped counting at 300. And that was just in one sector of space. The chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted questions, demanded explanations, and argued over impossible numbers. 300 systems. In one sector alone. If humans were operating on that scale across multiple sectors. Dr. Morinel's voice cut through the noise, amplified by the chamber systems. Council members, we must face the possibility that we have completely misunderstood the situation. We thought we were dealing with an upstart species seeking acceptance into galactic society. Instead, we may have been unknowingly negotiating with a civilization that has quietly become the dominant presence in the galaxy. Morden's ancient voice carried clearly through the chamber. Dr. Morinel, in your professional opinion, what was humanity's true purpose in our previous negotiations? The Savani considered the question carefully. I believe they were being polite. They came to our meetings not because they needed our approval, but because they thought it was the courteous thing to do. When we demanded their submission, they realized that courtesy was being mistaken for dependence, so they left. They left because they had work to do. And now we're beginning to understand the scope of that work. Council Leader Vexthara S. energy form had dimmed to barely visible levels. In 3,000 years of galactic governance, the Ethereals had never encountered a situation like this. They had assumed that their advanced civilization and long experience made them the natural leaders of galactic society, but what if they had been wrong? What if, while they had been governing the galaxy they knew, another species had been quietly building the galaxy they had ignored? The silence that followed was broken only by the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Finally, Vexthara spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "What have we done?" The intelligence reports flooded in from across known space like water through a broken dam. Every major power, every minor faction, every independent trader with a ship and sensors began sending data to Concordia Prime. What they found changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about itself. Admiral Kexthara of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy stood in her flagship's command center, staring at a holographic display that showed 37 star systems. Each system glowed with the telltale signs of massive construction activity. Her blue-scaled hands shook slightly as she updated her report to the Zephyrian High Command. "Command, this is Admiral Kexthara reporting from the Outer Spiral Survey. I have confirmed human presence in 37 systems previously marked as uninhabitable. Repeat, 37 systems. The scope of construction suggests permanent settlements, not temporary outposts." The response from her superiors came quickly. "Admiral, are you certain these are human operations?" Kexthara looked at her sensor officer, a young Zephyrian whose scales had turned pale with shock. "Lieutenant Morkith, show me the spectral." Analysis again. The display shifted to show energy signatures and material compositions. "Admiral, the construction methods are definitely human in origin, but the scale—" His voice trailed off. "Ma'am, some of these installations are larger than our home colonies. How is that possible?" "Unknown, Admiral." "But look at this," the lieutenant highlighted a section of the display. "These atmospheric readings show full terraforming completion. Breathable air, stable weather patterns, established ecosystems. According to our records, these worlds were barren rock 18 months ago." Kexthara felt her command training struggle against the evidence before her eyes. "Lieutenant, terraforming takes centuries. Our best scientists need 200 years minimum to transform a dead world." "Yes, ma'am, I know. Then explain this data." "I can't, Admiral. The humans appear to have technology we don't understand." 3 sectors away, the Keth Collective's research vessel Deep Thinker encountered something that made their scientists question the basic laws of physics. Captain Yelenith had led scientific expeditions for 40 years, but nothing had prepared her for what they found in the Magellan cluster. "Research leader Thekmer," she called to her chief scientist. "What are we looking at?" The insect-like being clicked his mandibles in confusion. "Captain, according to our instruments, the humans have turned a gas giant into a solid planet. That's impossible." "Yes, Captain, it is impossible, yet there it is." The main screen showed a world that should not exist. Where their charts indicated, a massive gas giant with crushing atmospheric pressure and no solid surface, now hung a terrestrial planet with continents, oceans, and weather patterns. "How long would such a transformation take using known technology?" Captain Yelenith asked. "Captain, there is no known technology that could accomplish this. Converting a gas giant to a terrestrial planet would require moving more mass than some star systems contain. Even if it were theoretically possible, it would take thousands of years and resources that exceed the total output of the galactic economy. Yet the humans did it in less than 2 years. Yes, Captain, somehow they did exactly that." The reports continued to arrive at Concordia Prime. The Draconian Empire discovered human settlements in the void sectors, regions of space so dangerous that no sane species attempted to enter them. The Centauri Federation found evidence of human mining operations in black hole systems, somehow extracting resources from areas where matter itself broke down. Dr. Mornell worked without sleep for 3 days, compiling and analyzing the incoming data. When she finally presented her findings to an emergency council session, Her musical voice carried a note of exhaustion and disbelief. Honored Council, I have reviewed intelligence reports from every member species. The scope of human activity exceeds our most extreme projections. She activated the chamber's main display. Showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared throughout the display, marking confirmed human presence. At first there were dozens, then hundreds. The dots continued to appear until nearly a quarter of the galaxy glowed red. "This cannot be accurate," whispered Ambassador Krell, his usual confidence shattered. "I have verified each report personally," Dr. Mornell replied. "The humans are operating in over 800 star systems. Many of these systems were thought to be uninhabitable, inaccessible, or simply unknown to galactic civilization. Ancient." Morden spoke from his containment suit, his voice heavy with the weight of ages. "Dr. Mornell, you are telling us that while we governed what we thought was the galaxy, humans were building a larger galaxy that we didn't know existed. That appears to be correct." Council Leader Vexthara S. energy form flickered rapidly. "How is this possible? Our long-range sensors should have detected construction on this scale." "That assumes the humans wanted us to detect it," Dr. Mornell said quietly. "The evidence suggests they have been very careful to work in areas we considered worthless or dangerous. While we focused on prime systems with perfect conditions, they developed technology to make imperfect systems perfect." Ambassador Thekmar of the Centauri Federation stood slowly. "Dr. Mornell, what does this mean for galactic civilization as we know it?" The Savani researcher's expression showed the strain of the past few days. "It means we have been living in a small part of the galaxy while another civilization built the rest of it around us. When we delivered our ultimatum to humanity, we were not dealing with a junior species seeking our approval. We were demanding submission from what may be the most powerful civilization in galactic history." The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of life support systems. Representatives who had spent their lives believing in the natural order of galactic society now faced the possibility that everything they knew was wrong. Captain Jorvek, who had remained in the chamber, as an observer, cleared his throat. "If I may speak, Honored Council," Vexthara nodded weakly. "I've been a freighter captain for 30 years. I know space better than most, and I've always wondered about the gaps in our charts. Systems marked as dangerous or empty that nobody ever bothered to check. Dead zones that ships avoided out of habit rather than real danger." He paused, looking around the chamber. "Now, I think I know why those areas were really off limits." "Explain," Morden said. "The humans were already there. They've been there for decades, maybe longer. They just never told us because we never asked the right questions. Double quotes. Dr. Mornell activated another display. Captain Jorvak's observation matches our analysis. Review of historical shipping records shows that human vessels frequently disappeared from tracking systems in certain regions, only to reappear days or weeks later with cargo manifests that made no sense." "What kind of cargo?" Krell asked. "Rare minerals from systems with no known mining operations. Biological samples from worlds we had classified as sterile. Manufactured goods using materials that don't appear in any galactic database. The implications were staggering. For generations, human traders had been selling goods that came from places the galaxy didn't know existed, using resources that couldn't be found on any official chart." Ambassador Yiltara of the Nexu Coalition raised a trembling hand. "Dr. Mornell, if humans have this level of technology and industrial capacity, why did they ever participate in galactic society at all?" "That may be the most disturbing question of all," Dr. Mornell replied. "Based on my analysis of human psychology and behavior patterns, I believe they participated because they are genuinely social creatures. They wanted to be part of a larger community, but they don't need us. No, they never needed us. They came to our meetings, followed our trade agreements, and participated in our diplomatic processes because they thought it was the right thing to do. They were being good neighbors." Vexthara's voice was barely audible, and we responded by demanding their submission. "Yes, The ancient ethereal Morden leaned forward in his containment suit. Dr. Mornell, in your professional opinion, what is humanity's likely response to our ultimatum? The Sylvani researcher consulted her notes one final time. Based on the evidence we've gathered, humanity has already responded. They have withdrawn from galactic society and focused entirely on their own development. They are not preparing for war against us. They are preparing to outgrow us. Meaning that in 50 years, maybe less, human civilization will be so far advanced beyond ours that we will be irrelevant to them. They won't conquer us or destroy us. They will simply leave us behind. The chamber sat in stunned silence as the full scope of their mistake became clear. They had tried to control a species that was already beyond their understanding. They had demanded submission from a civilization that had quietly become larger and more advanced than anything in galactic history, but perhaps most troubling of all, they had managed to insult the one species that had genuinely wanted to be their friend. Outside the chamber windows, the normal traffic of galactic civilization continued. Ships carried goods between established worlds. Diplomats negotiated trade agreements. And the business of the galaxy went on as it had for thousands of years, but now everyone knew the truth. Somewhere in the darkness beyond their charts, humanity was building tomorrow while the rest of the galaxy was still trying to understand today. 1 year after humanity walked away from the negotiating table, the galaxy had learned to live with a new reality. The old rules still applied in the old spaces, but beyond the boundaries of traditional civilization, something unprecedented was taking shape. Captain Zekthar of the Draconian merchant vessel Iron Scale received a distress call on a routine cargo run to the outer colonies. The message came from New Dracosia, a frontier world that had been struggling with a plague outbreak for 3 months. Standard galactic medical supplies had proven useless against the alien disease, and the colony's population was dying. "This is New Dracosia Control calling any ship in range," the transmission crackled with desperation. "We have 5,000 people sick and getting worse. Our medical facilities are overwhelmed. Request immediate assistance." Zekthar checked his cargo manifest. He carried general supplies, nothing that would help with a medical crisis. The nearest major medical facility was 6 weeks away by conventional travel. By the time help arrived through official channels, New Dracosia would be a graveyard. He was about to respond with regrets when another transmission cut across the emergency frequency. "New Dracosia Control, this is the medical vessel Hippocrates. Requesting permission to approach. We have supplies and medical personnel ready to assist." Zekthar's scaled brow furrowed. He had never heard of a ship called Hippocrates, and the voice had a distinctly human accent. But humans had withdrawn from galactic space over a year ago. What was a human medical ship doing in Draconian territory? "Hippocrates, this is New Dracosia Control. Please identify your origin and authority." "Control, we're operating under the Sol Federation Emergency Medical Protocol. We detected your distress signal and have medical countermeasures for the plague strain affecting your population. Request permission to begin immediate treatment operations." Captain Zekthar watched through his ship's sensors as a vessel emerged from hyperspace near the colony world. The ship was clearly human in design, but larger and more advanced than any human vessel he had seen before. It moved with the smooth efficiency of technology that seemed almost alive. Within hours, the human medical team had the plague under control. Their treatments worked where galactic medicine had failed. Their equipment was more advanced than anything in the Draconian medical database. When the crisis was over, they simply left, refusing any payment or formal thanks. Similar stories began spreading throughout the galaxy. When the Centauri Federation faced a food crisis after crop failures on 3 agricultural worlds, human cargo ships appeared with supplies that solved the problem overnight. When pirates attacked a Keth collective convoy in the neutral zone, human patrol vessels materialized from empty space to drive off the attackers. The humans never asked for permission. They never demanded payment. They simply appeared when needed, provided solutions that worked better than anyone expected, and disappeared again. Ambassador Thekmar sat in his office aboard New Harmony, reviewing reports that made less sense. Each day, human ships were appearing throughout Centauri space, but they weren't following any known travel routes. They seemed to materialize from nowhere, conduct their business, and vanish again. Computer, analyze shipping patterns for human vessels in our territory over the past 6 months. The display showed scattered dots representing human ship appearances. There was no pattern, no logical sequence of arrival and departure points. It was as if human ships could simply appear anywhere they wanted to be. His assistant, Vikalin, entered carrying another datapad. "Sir, we've received another formal request from the mining consortium on Kepler Prime. They want permission to hire human engineers for their expansion project." "What did you tell them?" "The same thing we tell everyone who asks. We have no diplomatic contact with human authorities and cannot arrange any formal agreements." Thekmar studied the reports on his desk. Over the past year, human involvement in the galactic economy had not decreased despite their political withdrawal. If anything, it had increased dramatically. But it was happening through individual arrangements, direct contracts, and personal relationships rather than government-to-government agreements. "Vikalin, how many human civilians are currently working in our territory?" His assistant consulted his datapad. "According to our latest census, approximately 30,000 humans are employed in various capacities throughout the Federation." "But sir, that number doesn't make sense." "Why not?" "Because none of them arrive through official immigration channels. They just appeared and started working. When we ask about their legal status, they show documents issued by something called the Sol Federation Colonial Administration, which apparently has authority we've never heard of." On Concordia Prime, Council Leader Vexthara faced a problem that had no precedent in galactic history. The human quarters, empty for over a year, suddenly showed signs of activity again. But the humans who had returned were not diplomats or negotiators. They were traders, engineers, doctors, teachers, and artists. They rented space on the commercial levels, opened businesses, and began offering services that quickly became essential to the station's operation. When questioned about their authority to be there, they politely referred to permits issued by human colonial authorities and went about their business. "Intelligence Chief Zarthak," Vexthara said during their daily briefing, "what is your assessment of the human presence on this station?" The ethereal's energy form flickered with confusion. "Council Leader, they appear to be operating under the assumption that the Sol Federation is a legitimate political entity with rights equal to any council member species. But we have never recognized any such entity." "That appears to be irrelevant?" "To them, they treat our lack of recognition as an administrative oversight rather than a political statement." Dr. Mornell, who had been studying human behavior patterns since the crisis began, added her analysis. "Council Leader, I believe the humans have fundamentally reframed the situation. They are no longer seeking our approval or recognition. They are simply informing us of decisions they have already made." "What decisions?" "The decision to treat their own space as sovereign territory. The decision to operate their own government independent of galactic oversight. The decision to engage with other species on terms of equality rather than subordination." Vexthara's energy form dimmed. "They have declared independence? More than that. They have achieved independence. The difference is significant." The proof of that independence became clear when Ambassador Sarah Chun returned to Concordia Prime for the first time since humanity's dramatic exit. She did not come alone. A delegation of 12 humans accompanied her. But these were not the same desperate diplomats who had left in silence a year ago. These humans moved with the quiet confidence of people who no longer needed anything from anyone else. They wore clothing that seemed to be made from materials that didn't appear in any galactic database. They carried devices that functioned smoothly but used principles that the station sensors couldn't identify. Chun herself seemed different. The polite deference she had shown in previous negotiations was gone. Replaced by the calm authority of someone speaking from a position of strength, the council chamber filled quickly as word spread of humanity's return. Representatives who had spent months debating what to do about the human problem now found themselves face to face with its resolution. Ching walked to the center of the chamber and activated a holographic display. The image showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, but it was unlike any chart the Council had ever seen. Nearly half the galaxy glowed with indicators of human presence. "Honored Council," Chun began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber, "I come before you today not to negotiate or request permission, but to make a formal announcement." The chamber held its breath. "The Sol Federation formally recognizes the Galactic Council's authority over Council space. We respect your laws, your traditions, and your right to govern your member species as you see fit." Murmurs of confusion rippled through the assembled delegates. This sounded like submission, but something in Chun's tone suggested otherwise. "In return, we hope the Council will extend the same courtesy to Federation space and recognize our right to govern our own territory according to our own principles." The murmurs stopped. The implication was clear but impossible to accept. Humanity was not asking for recognition as an equal member of galactic society. They were announcing that they had become galactic society's equal whether the Council liked it or not. Ambassador Krell stood slowly. "Ambassador Chun, you speak as if your oration controls territory equivalent to the entire Council." Chun's expression never changed. "Ambassador Krell, the Sol Federation currently administers 1,237 star systems. Our population exceeds 12 billion citizens. Our industrial capacity has been independently verified by neutral observers as greater than the combined output of the 5 largest Council member species." The chamber erupted in chaos. Shouts of disbelief, demands for proof, and angry accusations filled the air. Chun waited patiently for the noise to subside. "We understand. This information may be surprising," she continued when order was restored. "We have prepared detailed documentation for any